Hi, this is Jacqueline and Steve. We are two grown adults with small children who've decided to move to Thailand in our mid 50s. And we have a lot of people who had asked us questions before we left. We've been here for about 10 months. And we've not really told the story about how it turned out that we decided to move abroad with our kids. So I'm going to have to take the responsibility for the initial thought as my own. Flipping through Facebook one day, happened to see a top 20 places to retire by Travel and Leisure magazine, and I started flipping through it. And it talks about, this particular article talked about where you could live for less than $2,000 a month. And I thought, boy, that would be great. So it turns out that that was not an expectation that we could meet as far as living expenses, but it did get me thinking about where I'd like to go. And I think that year, Portugal was the top place to move abroad for a lot of different reasons. So I brought it up to Steve several years ago. We started talking a little bit about it. And what were your thoughts at the time?
I thought you were crazy.
Okay. And then?
I started warming up to the idea.
Okay. And as you warmed up to the idea, I was still kind of focused on this Portugal idea. What made you think about moving someplace other than Portugal? Or did I say, hey, if you
I thought it would be fun to move somewhere where we vacationed a lot. That's why I liked Thailand.
Okay. And so we decided that Thailand made sense. And we started digging into moving to Thailand a little bit because it was someplace that he would agree to go. And that meant that I could go. So we, at that time, again, we were in our early 50s. And the thing that's a little bit different for us than for a lot of folks in their early and mid 50s is we have small children. So at this time, right now, today, we have an 11-year-old and two 9-year-olds. And so when I started thinking about this, they certainly were in single digits, each of them. And so we had to kind of think about what that meant to them. Most people who decide to move abroad at this point in their lives are leaving kids who are in high school or college or married in their careers, having grandchildren. That's not our situation. So we had to do a little bit different planning in order to make this work. So obviously that means that we're dragging our children with us, but that means also that we don't have to leave them when other folks do end up leaving their children as they decide to move abroad at this point in their lives. So I tried to figure out what made sense. We looked at some videos about people moving abroad and watched a lot of House Hunters International. And you see a lot of these folks say, we sold it all and we are moving to Thailand or moving to X country, whatever it is. And
I wasn't ready to do that.
No, we thought that probably wasn't the best idea for us, just simply because we weren't sure how it would be for the kids and for us. We also had just done a bunch of work on our house. We bought a house when our oldest was 5 that was big and outdated, and we had just redone the kitchen, or we're in the process of redoing the kitchen, and it was beautiful. And we didn't want to have
Is beautiful.
It still is beautiful for the renters. And so we decided that we would rent out the house rather than sell everything. So here's one thing that I think is a good idea that we didn't really think about at the time, but what we found is that there are very few year-long rentals in Chicago, at least, where they are sold furnished, kind of like an Airbnb. We didn't want to Airbnb our house. We've kind of heard that it's a lot of work. We also heard you could make some money, but it just isn't something that we wanted to do, to have a lot of folks coming and going. So we put our home up for rent. We put it up for rent furnished and unfurnished, both. And luckily, we found someone pretty quickly who decided that they wanted it furnished. And honestly, we said, well, we have some food in the pantry, and they said, yeah, well, you just leave it. If we need some baking soda, then it'll be there, and we won't have to worry about it. So we basically put our personal belongings into storage. We have another place, a rental in Chicago where there is some storage for us. So we put our personal items into storage, and we rented out our home, fully furnished, with the coffee pot and strainers still intact.
Everything.
So everything. everything other than our personal belongings. And that worked out. That worked out pretty well. We did have a little bit of a stumble because our renters ended up needing to leave early, but then pretty quickly, once again, we found someone who maybe didn't want to bring all of their furniture from halfway across the country, so they decided that they would use the furniture that we had in some of the rooms and most of the rooms. So once again, we are when we do go back, if we go back, we assume that we'll go back. When the kids are in high school, we will just kind of march back into the house that we left and pick up right where we left off. I'm sure there will be some things that are a little worse for wear, but that was a choice. You don't have to sell everything and leave that way. So we are in a position where I was in a corporate job. I had been working for the same company for about 15 years, had a decent amount of money in my retirement plan there. And I'd seen something somewhere about something called the Rule of 55. And the Rule of 55 is something that the government allows, and your company also has to allow it. But basically the rule says you can retire the year you turn 55 or later. Maybe not retire. You can leave your company the year you turn 55 or later and take money out of your 401k, not IRAs, but your 401k, in order to live off of it or start your own business or whatever it is that you want to do. So it seemed to us that this was a good way to make sure that we had a backstop on expenses should we need to have some money to live off of, in addition to any savings that we had. Not every company has that. Not everybody has enough money in their 401k for it to be a big enough backstop, maybe if you haven't worked there long enough. If you are thinking of making a move like this, you might be able to move your old 401k into the company that you're working for, because you can't access it in their 401k. It has to be accessed in the company that you're leaving. So you can go ahead and transfer that money. Not financial advice, of course. So we also kind of got the idea about what it would mean to our family to make the move. So one of the things that I asked Steve just before we started making the video is why did you think it was a good idea to make the move?
Well, I think it's a great experience for them. I mean, they go to a school with 40 different nationalities, and they're meeting all different people from all over the world and different cultures, and I think it's educational, to say the least.
Right. So the downside that we have for moving the children is that they don't speak Thai, and so we can't put them in a regular Thai school here. We have to pay for a private school in Thailand. If it were a place where it were a little bit easier to learn the language, for instance, if we had decided to move to Spain and perhaps your children had learned a little bit of Spanish before they walked out the door, then you might be able to just put them in a Spanish school. I think you have to be a tax resident at that point in order to do that. But it is something that we've heard that we could have done. For us, the reason that we decided to move to Koh Samui, where we currently live, is because the schools here were affordable, and so that puts us in this place. We also like the weather in Thailand. Now, Steve probably likes a little bit more than I do. I'm not a keen of 90 every day, but he is. So what are your thoughts? Are you still so keen on 90 every day?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. As long as we're near the beach and near the pool, and it's nice. It's like being on vacation every day. At least that's what the kids say.
Yeah, and that is a little bit of a downside, right, of moving with the kids. So we're not sure that they are experiencing their education in a way, in as good an educational setting as we would have them when we were in Chicago. The kids went to Chicago Public Schools. It was a very good school. But one of the teachers that we talked to here suggested that it's difficult for children to commit to learning here like they committed to learning back home, because their parents may feel like they're on vacation every day, and so it's hard for the children not to feel like they're on vacation every day and to take their education as seriously. So we've been thinking a little bit about that. We also know, obviously, that they're not getting the U.S. curriculum, so they're getting a British school, Cambridge curriculum at their school, which does not, interestingly enough, include U.S. history, U.S. geography, those kinds of parts of the class. So we bought a little a little IXL. It's just a kind of computer internet driven thing where they can learn those things. We haven't been probably as committed to getting them to learn those things as we should be, but it is something that we are trying to make sure that they don't lose, is the knowledge that they would have gained in those classrooms this year. One of the things I think that makes it tough for people to leave their jobs at the age that we are in the United States is when you leave your job, you leave your health insurance. And that's still a bit of a bone of contention for us. We have not yet really found the insurance that we think is the best option for us. We're still paying almost $700 a month for coverage here, which is just outpatient coverage. And we found that we can't cancel it, that we have to stay with it. And we're not necessarily getting great customer service about how to make the best use of that health insurance. So that's an issue. We do understand that when we go back to the United States, we can get health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. We're not sure that it will be discounted in any way, but it is a way that we can get the insurance and sign up for it because of the fact that we've been living abroad and have been outside the United States. So at least we'll be able to find a great way to look for a bunch of policies at one time.
But fortunately for us here, the insurance, anything you need, the healthcare is very reasonably priced. So if you have to get something done that's not covered by insurance, it doesn't put you into bankruptcy. It's very, very affordable to get anything done here.
And I think that's probably true of almost every other country. I mean, I've been looking around at other policies, and a lot of policies are, we will cover you everywhere in the world except for the US. Or we will cover you everywhere in the world except for Hong Kong, Singapore, and the United States. So you can kind of see that a lot of places have very reasonable health insurance or very reasonable health care costs that are much less expensive than the United States. You could probably get trip insurance. We're looking at that as an option. We're actually looking at possibility of getting trip insurance to go to the United States. But it's a little unclear as to if that's going to work or not for us. All of these videos that we saw from the beginning said, oh, it's going to be so much less expensive to live in Thailand or all of these other countries. We're not really finding that to be the case.
We could do it a lot cheaper. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I think living here isn't as expensive, but the fact that our children have so much time off from school, we like to take advantage of that. So we've been taking a lot of trips.
That's true. I love my spreadsheets, and so I've been kind of pulling together the information. Again, we've been here for about 10 months, and I've taken a look at basically everything that we've spent on the credit cards over the course of that time, and then all of the big expenses that maybe weren't on the credit cards. What I'm finding is there are three big expenses. The first is, and most expensive, is the villa. I mean, we could have found something that cost half of what we were paying, but this particular villa has a dishwasher, and it has an oven and a microwave and a full-size refrigerator. A lot of the things that are going to be less expensive
and a sea view.
And a beautiful sea view with an infinity pool. Yes. A lot of the things that are going to be less expensive are not going to have any of those things. But they, if those things are not necessarily as important to you as they were to us, then then you can certainly reduce that cost significantly. The second most expensive thing I think we decided was a tie, perhaps pretty close tie, between the children's school. Mm-hmm. Again, private school, maybe when you have a private school in the United States, you're getting what is probably considered a better education. I'm not saying that a private school here at the prices that we're paying are a better education. It's just an opportunity for the children to learn in English. So that's a decent chunk of the money. And then the third thing, as Steve alluded earlier, is vacations. When I take a look at all of the money that's been put into airfare, hotels, rental cars, mostly airfare, to either go back to the United States. We went back during the winter holidays in December and January. And then we're planning on going back in July and August so that the kids can see some of their U.S. friends. So when I bundle it all up, and that includes restaurants during vacation, and
ferries,
ferries,
hotels,
all of that stuff.
activities.
We're probably at $20,000 for the year just in vacations. So the way that we're doing it, which is a little bit different than the way some folks do with slow travel. Slow travel you can do when you don't have children who need to get an education. We have to have a home base here. And then, and so we are still paying for the villa, even when we're on vacation. If we were doing something like a slow travel, we would stay someplace for a month or 3 or 6, and then we would move on to the next place. And we would never be leaving a place empty while we're off living someplace else or vacationing someplace else. So this way is a little more expensive, but again, because of the fact that we have our children and they need to have an education while we're out, this is the route we've taken. I have got a little bee in my bonnet about the idea of homeschooling the children. We failed miserably homeschooling during COVID. I was working. Steve was trying to manage 2 kindergartners on virtual learning. Sat between them, there would be fisticuffs. I mean, it was not
All day
easy.
long.
And their printing still is just horrific because kindergarten is where you learn to really make your letters very well. So we think that virtual learning during COVID was worst case scenario. I have brought up the idea of homeschooling to the children. 2 out of 3 are on board to giving it a try. The third one would have no change ever in her life if it was given the opportunity. Maggie. So for instance, when we took the green ceramic tile out of our foyer in our house in Chicago, and we put hardwood floor in there, of course, everyone said, wow, this is beautiful, this is amazing. That tile was very dated. Maggie wanted us to take the hardwood flooring back out and put the tile back in. So she's not keen on the fact that we removed the avocado green toilet from that house at all. So getting her to agree to something like homeschooling wasn't going to happen anyway.
I think all it will take will be a couple of days where she has to get up and I have to bring her to school while her brother and sister sit in their pajamas
and do their schooling.
schoolwork.
So we do need to dig into the
can't sit in their
homeschooling.
pajamas.
I think they would
They gotta
need to change. Yeah. So I think that we're looking at that as an option. But for right now, we sort of just eased into this idea over the course of, it probably was 5 or 6 years that I saw that initial article and started thinking about the option to do it. And I think at the time when I saw it, we thought, oh, the minute the kids graduate, we'll take this approach. And then, like so many people during COVID, when your life's changed so much anyway, it just seemed like, why not take advantage of an opportunity that we had to do it at the time and just do it early. And hopefully you can go back. And maybe you can't. Maybe nobody wants to hire people over the age of 50 anymore for these jobs, but we've bet that it's something that we can do. So hopefully this is helpful if you're thinking about maybe retiring and thinking about moving abroad. If you have small children and you're moving abroad and you know that the kids have to go to school, we just found the school, and I'll put it down below, just using a international school directory that I found online, and you can do a search. It's not going to have all of the schools there, and it won't necessarily have all of the prices there, but it can give you a starting point to find some international schools in a country that you might be interested in visiting. And then, the other thing is, if you're taking a look at deciding if your company allows for the rule of 55, I would say a couple of things. One, it helps if you have a friend that you can trust in HR. And the second thing is, if you don't really know that you do or you can, then see if you can't get your hands on the plan document for your 401k. That will probably be on the site where you find the information about your retirement. And if you go through the plan document, it'll talk about early distributions from retirement. And if it says, something about after the age of 55 separation from service, that's something that can be really helpful for you to understand if that's something that will work for you. The other thing that might be kind of helpful, there are a lot of places that have digital nomad visas. You have to have a visa to stay in Thailand as long as we did. We're using our children's education visa. We're piggybacking off of that. Our other option, if the children decided they wanted to homeschool, is for us to get retirement visas because we're over the age of 50, and that makes it okay to do. It does mean that you have to have a little bit more money in your in your Thai bank account. There's a whole deal about getting a Thai bank account. We're not going to touch on that right now.
That's a whole 3-hour video.
That is a whole 3-hour video. But you do need to have more money in your Thai bank account in order to do retirement visas. But my understanding is that the children can be here with us at their current ages, even if we have retirement visas and they don't have an education visa. So we haven't looked into that too much, but we could homeschool them here, we think, if that's the case. And then, but there are digital nomads. If you have a job where you work virtually and your boss says, I don't care if you're in Thailand, you just have to work these hours, or I don't care if you're in Thailand, but you can work whatever hours you want to, then you're at a giant advantage. Now, you do need to have some kind of a digital nomad visa from the Thai government.
Mm-hmm.
We've never tried to do that because we didn't have the opportunity to sort of bring a job with us.
We're brand new
We're brand new.
in the digital nomad video.
Right. Well, we're not digital
Oh yeah,
nomads.
we're
though.
not. We're not.
We're
Content creators.
content creator. That's what we are now. So anyway, those are options. There are lots of countries, not just Thailand, that have digital nomad and retirement visas and education visas that you can look at. So this is what we're doing for us right now. But there are other options that you can take a look at. So that's where we are right now. If it was helpful, we have committed to trying to put out more information just on the move, because our intention had been that we were going to start putting up information. So because we couldn't find anything to help us move to Thailand.
Well, we found a lot of things, but not as far as a family or things that we needed. There are a lot of good information out there.
Budgeting
Yeah.
videos, mostly people that were young,
Or 2 people.
with no kids, either
Yeah.
a single person or a couple. Maybe we'd see a family every once in a while with kids that were not old enough to be in school, those sorts of things. So because we are in a bit of a unique position, I thought it might be helpful for us to put up some content that was specific to being kind of old with little
Young
kids,
kids.
And wanting to, take a break at least from life in the U.S. And move abroad. So if you can like and subscribe, if you will like and subscribe, we intend on putting up a lot more content that would be helpful in learning this. Also, if you have questions, and we'll think about things that we've seen, we are on a couple of Facebook groups, Koh Samui expats, Thailand expats, and so I'm thinking about maybe taking...
Thailand travel advice.
Okay.
I think that's another one.
There's another one. We'll take a look at some of the questions that we see folks consistently asking on those channels or on those sites, so that we can maybe put together some content so that people have some information. We still don't really know how to edit very well, so we're just doing this on the fly, and we'll see how it goes up. All right, like and subscribe, please, and we'll keep putting some stuff up. Thanks.